Live here any minute. Hello! Welcome, everyone, to this wonderful video interview with John Ashton. He is part of the Weekend Golf Guys over in Louisville, Kentucky, helping a whole lot of people improve their golf game, which I know a lot of people do and want to do. So, without anything further, let me go ahead and introduce to you John Ashton. So, John, how are you this fine afternoon?
I am wonderful, sir. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good.
Good.
So just to get started, tell us a little bit how you ended up in doing your radio show, the Weekend Golf Guys.
Okay, I'll give you the short version. I've been a professional radio announcer for about 30 years, ever since my teenage years. And back in 2008, I was working for a large broadcast company that was selling the stations I worked at here in Louisville. And they came and told me I was too expensive and needed to go make my own way in the world. So I have two passions in life, one being golf, the other being radio. So I decided, hey, what the heck, I'll make my own radio show about golf. That way at least golf will be tax deductible. And it kind of took on a life of its own and drugged me along with it. And now we're nationally syndicated in about 110 cities, 26 states, and growing by leaps and bounds every month. And I still can't believe it. So
Can't beat that at all. You're actually
no.
I have another client who does a sports talk radio show. Sports talk radio show. It's a lot of fun looking at the radio and how they get into it. And I've talked to a lot of folks who ended up getting fired from something and going, well, I'll go do this now. And this works
Exactly. That's how it works.
How long have you been doing this now, you said?
4 years, seriously.
4 years, seriously. So in that time, what would you say has been the biggest challenge you've come across in getting your program up and going and off the air and everything else?
Problem with a radio show, and you may have run into this with some of your other clients, is there are multiple constituencies you have to serve. So, in order to eat, you have to find sponsors, but in order to attract sponsors, you have to have listeners. And in order to get listeners, you have to attract radio stations to carry the show. And it's a different marketing technique to each of those three different constituencies. And it kind of spreads you a little thin when you're doing it all by yourself.
Yeah. I know a lot of businesses end up with that almost three-tiered customer platform.
Yeah.
They have to cater to so many different people. It makes it really, really hard to do.
Yeah.
So you got a good story or example of one time you're about ready to just pull your hair out trying to make it all work for you?
Yeah, and we were really on the verge of giving it all up. It was just getting to be too much of a hassle, and my wife kept mentioning how expensive my hobby was. And we just, out of the blue, contacted a guy we found on Google, just doing like a last-ditch search for radio syndicators that were looking for programming. We found a guy in Bakersfield who listened to our demo tape and fell in love with us. And he picked us up 2 years ago. And basically has been the catalyst that's gotten the growth to the point where it is now, to the point where a big-time syndicator in Chicago got in touch with us and said, hey, I can make you even bigger. Let's go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But, it was kind of serendipitous. We just, stumbled upon the guy. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Oh, wow. So you were just right there at the end of everything almost. And
yeah, I was about ready to go get a real job.
Oh, heaven forbid, right?
I know, that's what I was saying, man. I haven't had a real job since I was 16. I don't think I can start now.
I've had several clients of mine be, right there at that edge. I know in my business, both on my bookkeeping business and my coaching business, I've come across that point where, gosh, something's got to break here. I'm about to lose my mind.
Yeah.
And I think no matter what kind of business you're in, you have those points in your life that make you go, oh, gosh, something's got to break, and something usually does. And sometimes not all the time, but usually does.
And usually when it doesn't, it still leads you to where you're destined to be to begin with, I guess.
You're right. That's something I'm learning quite a bit over the last couple months with my coaches. Is no matter what, life is there. It's going to keep going, and it's a game and a roller coaster all at once, and it's just life. Good, bad, and everything indifferent. It's just part of living and playing the game of life, which is a tough lesson to learn sometimes, but a good one.
Got to be ready to roll with the punches, all right?
It does. So you mentioned in there you found the first big syndicator on Google. Tell me a little bit more about that. How did you find them on Google? That interests me.
I was just looking for radio syndication. I was trying to get basically some ideas on how to go about doing it, what kind of presentation to make, because I'd always been just a a radio personality on one station, and in that search, looking for techniques on how to syndicate, how to make yourself attractive to syndicators, this guy popped up. It's called the Airtime America, and he was like on the 5th or 6th page. That's how frustrated I was getting. I was going deep into that Google search there. But found him and contacted him, and he had a little primer tutorial on what to do if you have a podcast or something that you think the world needs to hear. And I told him, hey, we're terrestrial radio. We're on locally here in Louisville. We want to syndicate. We want to be on a satellite. We want to be FTP. We want the whole world to be ready for us. And he said, hey, I can do that. And that was it. We've developed quite a good working relationship with him.
Oh, wow.
And he's raised his prices on everybody but us, so I guess he loves us.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we are his #1 program, so I guess he better be nice to us, or we'll.
Oh, I guess so. But you mentioned in there your big strategy was just learning how to go about doing it.
Right. That's what we were doing.
I know for myself, one thing I've told a lot of clients is you got to learn something before you can earn anything from it.
Yeah.
Learning, I think, is crucial on there. So how else have you found just that idea of learning at first play out both in life and in business over the last couple of years once you did get syndicated like that?
Well, I have no training in business. In fact, most people tell you if you graduate from college with a radio and television and film degree, which at the time I got one was a BS, which is very apropos nomenclature for it. That you're really not qualified to do much else if you know anything about doing anything else. So the whole concept of actually operating, owning, being in business was a little strange for me. And that has been a rather steep learning curve from the get-go. But, you have to learn how to present. We always, the on-air guys always make fun of the salespeople at a radio station, and suddenly, you become one. And you always at loggerheads with the program director who's giving you feedback and telling you what you're doing wrong, and suddenly you're doing the self-critiquing and just being ultimately in charge and kind of solo in the whole thing. It's kind of a frightening situation to find yourself in.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I know. I did some self-critiquing one time, and I've encouraged a lot of folks to do this. Is if they're going to a sales meeting or whatever else, take that little recorder, that digital recorder with them, and actually record their conversation and go back and listen to it. And as you listen through it, like, gosh, did I really say something that stupid? What was I thinking?
Well, some people might tell you I was a professional wise guy for a living, being on the air. And in fact, I remember being in a session with a general manager and a program director where it was the annual employee review, and they did reviews, but then we had to do a review of ourselves. And of course, the first two questions, typical, what do you consider to be your strengths? What do you consider to be your weaknesses? I had no problem filling out the strengths part. I was stuck a little bit when it came to what are my weaknesses. So what I answered was an inability to abide in competence. That didn't go over well, as you might imagine. But then I found myself staring at incompetence directly in the face when I was in charge. So.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
a little tough. Little tough to come to grips with.
It is being faced with the fact that we don't know everything that we think we know, and even what we thought we know, we really don't know.
Sometimes you don't even know what you don't know.
Exactly. I mean, it's sobering.
Yeah.
And that, for myself, just being a business owner, is one of the things I find both the most challenging and the most rewarding is being faced with my own inadequacies as a person. And where I've had to grow is just being open and admitting that to people. I sometimes don't really know what I'm doing, and it's okay. I've found as I open that up, people actually accept me more, so I don't have to throw up this big facade of being the big guy who knows it all.
I found people are much more willing to help if you're honest about it too, and just say, listen, I'm not really sure what to do here. What do I do?
It is. I mean, even for these interview series, I had a guy sent me an email back, tell me about it, and I said, yeah, that's a good idea what you got there. I'll be more than happy to learn with you on this, what do you propose? I said, I really don't know. And it's, just that honesty with ourselves and each other
Yeah.
is, I find it refreshing, and it takes sometimes a lot more growth than I'd want to go through to get to the point where I'm that way.
Yeah, it's a higher maturity level than I was ever forced to get to admit to yourself that you're not the expert everywhere.
Yeah.
'Cause I was always operated under if someone asks you, can you do something or will you do something, you always say yes,
Uh-huh.
and then worry about doing it after you've said yes. If it's something you don't know how to do, you try to find out how to do it very quickly.
Yes.
And now there's no one asking. It's just me who I just assume yes, and I get to the point where I go, wait, I have to do this, yet I have no idea where to start, how to get it done,
Mm-hmm.
or even what tells you it's done,
Yeah.
So.
When does it actually finish? And I know for myself, I first learned that one, my first house I ever owned, where I was putting in a window and had a buddy help me out. And he goes, you ever done this before? I said, well, no. He goes, well, so how do you do it? I said, well, I don't know, but I figured if I put a hole in the wall, I'll figure out how to do it later.
Yeah, someone's going to have to fill that, and it might as well be you.
Not the best way to go about it,
No,
but
no.
education and just asking the experts and people you look up to, saying, hey, this is my idea. Can you help me with this? It is so crucial.
Yeah.
So crucial. So is there any other challenge outside of the one you already mentioned that you've come across in your business so far?
Other than the three levels of audience. I'm sorry I keep getting out of focus. It's really apropos. It's a good metaphor for my life. The being alone. I mean, I've gone out and actually brought in some partners just for sounding boards.
Mm. I know that's huge. Who else can I talk to about this?
Right.
Where's my group of contacts that I need to bounce stuff off of? Yeah.
Right. And it's got to be people who don't yes you.
Don't guess you?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
No yes men. No people who say, because
okay.
it's your idea, it's fantastic, John. Well, not necessarily. Give me some honesty.
People who are honest enough and care enough about you as a person to say, you're being a bit of an idiot.
That's right. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, John. What are you thinking? Yeah.
And I know I've heard other interviews with people who say sometimes you got to ignore what they tell you. If you are confident enough in your own idea, regardless of what people say, and there's a fine line in there of, all right, do I pay attention to this one or do I ignore it and try it anyway?
Yeah. Well, I was getting a lot of negative feedback at the concept of actually syndicating, because it is an added expense that was a little bit larger than the income would necessitate being able to spend at the time. And people are saying you can't afford it, you got to wait. And I'm saying, we're on a small radio station, one radio station, where we're charging not enough money for the advertising inventory we had. We have a limited amount. We had 2 hours a weekend, limited amount of inventory to sell. Even if we were sold out at the rate that we can command in this market, we're never going to make any money. It will never be more than a hobby. And I will do this and still have to get a job. I was practicing Welcome to Walmart, but that didn't work either. So it was just go big or go home. It had to be done in order to make any money. So we had to make the decision that if we're going to continue in this business, this is the road we're going to have to take, and we have to take it now. And it's going to be a leap of faith. We have to commit to spend more money than we currently have in our pocket, but we have to believe that we can make it work. And so far we have.
Oh, that's tremendous. I was actually talking to a friend of mine just the other day, and he was telling me about a friend of his who had this business going, and he was telling me about it, and I said, those numbers don't add up. There's not enough volume for him to actually make any kind of money doing what he's doing. It's a great idea, but the numbers don't add. So just understanding the numbers and what it takes to make not just a hobby, but an actual living and everything else off of it is wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the numbers don't lie, unfortunately.
You can twist them however you want to, but it always comes out the same. So
Doesn't it though?
yeah, mathematics
Yeah.
is mathematics.
Yeah, there's no breaking the rules. Now you can interpret it a whole lot of ways, but if it don't work, it don't work.
That's right.
And I told more than one person, I said, you got a good idea here, but your numbers don't add up. And I
Yeah.
said, here's why. And once I take them through that and look at that, and they go, shoot, I'm going to have to sell like 6,000 different clients a month just to make it, just to make like $4,000 personal wage. And I said, yeah. And
Yeah.
I said, are there that many clients in the area? He goes, well, no. I said, there you go. Good
Yep.
idea. It just don't work.
Move on. Yeah, that when that Excel spreadsheet keeps showing red numbers at the bottom, no matter what you do, it's kind of scary.
It is. It is. So if you had to sum up everything you've learned in the last 4 years to someone who is in business, either going through a hard time or just about to throw in the towel, what would be your number one piece of advice or wisdom for that business owner?
If you believed in it when you started, continue to believe in it and make it work.
That is a solid piece of advice. Solid piece of advice. So, John, I know your show is on the weekends. What stations and what times?
Well, in Louisville, we're on 1450, the Sports Buzz, but you can always catch us online at thoseweekendgolfguys.com. And it's noon on Saturday, noon on Sunday.
Wonderful. Something you can have out on the golf course when the weather's right.
You betcha. In fact, we're in the process of creating a smartphone app, so you just push a button, it'll be right there for you.
Oh, awesome. Apps are changing the way we work.
It
So
sure
John,
is.
thank you for your time. I really enjoyed chatting with you, hearing your story about how you got out there. Wish you the best of luck in everything you got going.
Andrew, appreciate your time, sir. Thanks, man. Good talking to you.